You can feel it, can't you? The sense that power is tightening its grip, while the rest of us march, shout, and scroll, trying to remember what freedom actually means. We say no to kings, to corruption, to control, but do we really know what we're saying yes to? So this essay, this talk, is a little bolder than usual, because today people are out on the streets, again, standing up against the slow creep of authoritarianism. And I really wanted to add my voice. See, I believe we already have everything we need to change the system. The knowledge is here. The philosophy, the science, the people are here. And in fact, there's far more of us than there are of them. What's missing is coherence, an architecture of thought that can unify our scattered power. I recently heard somebody say, I think it was a quote, if the peasants of 17th century France could have told you now that extreme wealth leads to insanity. And to that, I just say enough said. But another one that really stuck with me was just how easy it is to say, enough is enough, and then to resell. Now, history doesn't exactly repeat, as they say it tends to rhyme. And right now, the rhythm from the French Revolution is unmistakable. Picture this, no King's rally. Surprise, surprise. The air smells like hot asphalt and sharpied cardboard. Chants down the street, signs everywhere, things like resist fascism, fight truth decay, and America was built by immigrants. The energy is no doubt electric. But underneath it all, I'm afraid there's something missing. We know what we're up against, but do we know what we're for? Because say what you will about the conservative machine, they have a vision. Not just talking points, but a blueprint. And it's called Project 2025. And it's so much more than just a wish list. It's a roadmap, a plan really detailed to reshape government from the inside out. The troubling part is that it's highly coherent and organized. See, Project 2025, drafted by the Heritage Foundation and its many allies, more or less calls for centralizing power, mass firings of civil servants, elevating loyalty over law, and fusing government with a very narrow moral order. I think of it as a nervous system locking into rigidity, in a society that's mistaking control for health. And it's metaphysics, although this isn't overt and it's not ever named, is very simple. It states that order is divine, say from God. Authority is sacred in that same sense. And that freedom is potentially dangerous. It also says that truth is revealed, not reasoned. Right? It's like trust in the divine revelation. And that's a part that I think we really need to understand. This isn't just politics. It's psychology and it's metaphysics disguised as policy. It's a worldview where complexity equals chaos. And so the only choice is submission. What's strange is that this new authoritarianism isn't just coming from one side. Sure, we have the religious right who dreams of moral purity, but we've also got the techno elite dreaming of digital transcendence, whatever that means. And somehow they are meeting in the middle, united by a shared discomfort, I would say, with frankly being human. They both want escape, one through heaven, one through hardware. But neither is asking the deeper question, what is a human being? And I think a society that forgets what a person is will always build systems that eventually deform personhood. And they'll call that deformation order, and a good thing. We know from neuroscience and psychology that when coherence collapses inside a brain, we call it mental illness. Now, when it collapses inside a civilization, We can call it a crisis. Now, what I mean by coherence is what lets a system hold together across all its parts, hold together across difference. It's not sameness, it's communication and cooperation. When it's gone, we get rigidity and overreaction and shutdown. And in that confusion, frankly, authoritarianism feels like relief. It gives us the sensation of structure, even if the structure is rotten. And that's why it works. It soothes our anxiety about uncertainty. But frankly, every empire ever built on this kind of suppression eventually collapses under its own deafness. Meanwhile, our progressive movement is rich. We're rich in compassion, but poor in coherence. We've got moral clarity, but no shared operating system. Sure, there's things like Project Freedom, there's the Center for Progressive Reform, and these are all serious efforts. But to me, what's missing is an underlying unifying theory, including a metaphysics of mind. Hey, Project 2025 is built on metaphysics, whether we want to admit it or not. We need it too. Without a coherent framework for what a human is and how minds work and how minds integrate and evolve, even our best intentions are going to scatter. Liberalism often defines itself by what it won't do, resisting hierarchy, avoiding dogma, and those are good virtues. But resistance alone can't create new patterns. Protest is great, interrupts, but it doesn't produce a new signal. So without a model of integration, fragmentation wins by default. But I think there's a way. During the French Revolution, Jean-Jacques Rousseau had a name for this missing ingredient. He called it the general will. Not the will of the majority, not the will of the mob, but it's more like an emergent coherence that appears when individuals begin thinking clearly, and by thinking clearly, they begin to align. It's not about agreement imposed from above. It's harmony emerging from within. Think of jazz. There's no conductor. Everybody's just listening, adapting, responding. And that's ultimately what a self-governing society looks like. So leadership then, in that context, isn't about control. It's about cultivation. The role of a true leader in this context is to help minds learn to come together, to synchronize, to harmonize, not to command them. Now, to make this real, it might help to think in terms of systems. In linguistics, syntax is structure, like the syntax of my sentences, and semantics is the meaning. Societies, like minds, need both. If the syntax breaks down, semantics becomes chaos. And right now, we keep trying to fix meaning. Our stories, ideologies, identities, all bumping together. But see, without repairing the syntax underneath, which is the way we think, the way we process information, the way we connect, we just make things worse. See, the general will isn't a semantic agreement. It's very hard to rationalize ideologies. It's a syntactic achievement. Shared structure precedes shared value. And this is where my day job comes in. In neurotherapy, when the brain loses coherence, we don't argue with its content. I don't talk to my clients about the stories and what's happened to them. We focus on the syntax of their thoughts. And through neurofeedback and neurostimulation, their brain relearns how to synchronize again and correct its maladaptive syntax. And as their syntax loosens up and they start to think more flexibly and clearly, what happens? They listen longer. They don't cling to a need for certainty. They begin to think with themselves again. Like they actually begin to think about problems. Now imagine if a government worked that way, not as an enforcer, but as a mentor of that kind of growth and coherence of minds. Not forcing unity into a cookie cutter system, of cultivating clarity and allowing that unity to emerge. I think that's the kind of vision we need, a Project 2030, a plan for cognitive infrastructure. Forget GDP, how about GCM, gross cognitive maturity, the quality of our minds? Imagine national investments in mental clarity and emotional regulation, neurofeedback and mindfulness in schools and communities, or education that teaches metacognition and civic reasoning, or maybe civic systems designed for dialogue over debate, and media that amplifies signal, not noise. These are just some ideas. Ultimately, what we need is a republic built on coherence, not consumption, because the future won't be saved by better arguments. It will be shaped by better signal. And really, again, all of this rests on a new kind of metaphysics. Not divine hierarchy, not chaos, but a universe of evolving minds. Reality isn't just matter moving through space aimlessly. It's minds and thoughts that are learning to tune themselves. Each of us is very much a waveform, a soul made of frequencies always seeking greater coherence. Freedom isn't the absence of order. It's the ability for us to self-organize and to resonate with each other. And meaning doesn't arise from authority. It arises from relationship with each other. Truth, like music, really only exists when notes meet each other. So to me, that's what No Kings really means. It's not just a political slogan, but a philosophy, a refusal to be ruled by monarchs, ideologies, or even our own fear. We don't need kings. We need minds that can think clearly and tune together. Because again, the future won't be decided by who rules, but by what kind of minds we're willing to become. No kings, no gods, just minds. Alive, aware, and learning to resonate. All right, thanks for listening. If that resonates, please do follow along. This was a fun one. The work I explore, you can take it further in my Substack, The Dream of Matter. You can subscribe to this YouTube channel and feel free to share it too. Because really, coherence starts here and it starts with us.